Now, I know zombies retrospectives have been done to death by this point. Every few months, someone new steps up and gives their take on some of the maps. But I want to do something a tiny bit different. Well, maybe not really different, but I have a different goal with this. You see, I fell out of love with zombies around the time of Black Ops Cold War's malware Untoten, and retreated back to just occasionally playing Black Ops 3. Because of this, I don't have even the slightest clue about what's been going on with the new games, their story, anything. And I know there's a lot of people out there like me who dropped out of these newer games and never looked back. So I want this retrospective series to be a bit of a jumping on point for two different demographics. I want people who are just joining with Black Ops 7 to get an idea of what these older games are like, and what makes them so special. But I also want to show COD boomers like myself what these newer games are like, and what they can bring to the table. I'm doing every game in the franchise, from World at War to BO7, and whatever comes after, including the offshoots like Exo Zombies, Infinite Warfare, World War II, all of it. I'll do my best to cover the general feel of the map, its contents, what new things it introduces, as well as discuss the lore and where each map fits into the wider story. If you never really understood what was going on in any of these maps, then stick around, because I want to learn everything there is to know about this new story and how we got here. Like, why is Eddie an asshole now? What happened to Samantha after the end of Forsaken? Why are the new characters dead in MWZ? Why is any iteration of Original 4 back in this new continuity? All these questions and more will be explained in due time. But for now, we have to go back to where everything started. It's November of 2008. You've been playing World at War ever since it dropped. You stayed up way past when you should have for the midnight release. Yeah, remember when those were a thing? Eventually you get bored of multiplayer, since everyone's running around Stopping Power, Juggernaut, or Martyrdom. So you give the campaign a spin, and it's nothing like what you've seen before. Unlike COD 4, there isn't a cast of badass modern soldiers trying to prevent nuclear war. This is a gripping, horrific story that bounces between the eastern and western fronts. You're shown how brutal the war was, with necks being slit, your fellow soldiers set on fire, blown up, impaled. It's all haunting. While I'd love to gush about the campaign in detail, that's not what we're here for. So let's just fast forward right up until the ending. The final mission is over. You've reached the top of the German Reichstag, and you've conquered it. After a rousing final speech from Reznov as the Russian anthem blares in the background, the credits roll, giving you time to reflect on the masterpiece that you fought tooth and nail through. But when those credits end, you're not sent back to the main menu. No. Instead, another mission starts up. Being thrown into this secret mission without warning? No doubt you're a bit confused. Definitely unsettled. You're fully alone this time. Roebuck isn't shouting at you to charge forwards. Reznov isn't giving a rallying cry. No. If you weren't already spooked, the very first thing you hear upon entry into this new mission is a maniacal, almost demonic laugh. What you're armed with is also almost pathetic. You don't have a carbine or PPSH to defend yourself with. All that you're given is a 1911 with a handful of magazines at best, a knife, and a few grenades. Getting a better look at our surroundings, we can immediately see that this place is far from inviting. Every doorway that leads out of the bunker has been almost completely barricaded. Shelves and filing cabinets are knocked over, and some of the rubble is still on fire, as if this place was just attacked recently. Adding to this, the roof is blown open in several different spots, and the entire building looks like it's barely standing. There's a stairway up to a second floor in the middle of the room, but it's blocked off by a couch. The words, "You must descend from darkness," etched into the wall above it. Who wrote this? Was this writing just always here? There's some more writing over on this door, the word "help" carved into it. Possibly the strangest things in this bunker are the two chalk drawings on the walls. Walking up to them prompts you to buy either an M1 carbine or a Kar 98K. These four all require points, of which you always start out with 500. It's enough to get the Kar 98K if you're desperate, but everything else is just out of your price range. Taking a look outside, it isn't all that much better. All you can see are dead trees, shrubs, a few trucks, and some barrels dotted around the area. The moon sits just above the horizon, peeking through the forest off in the distance. The most noticeable thing outside is the fog. It's incredibly thick and obscures pretty much anything that isn't right in front of you. While peering through the fog, you might see a silhouette slowly shuffling towards you. Shooting it with your pistol, it takes an entire magazine just to kill one zombie. 8 whole bullets permanently gone from what little ammo you started with. And who knows how many more zombies are on their way. Before you can process it, you'll hear the sound of something breaking. Going over to investigate, you find a zombie ripping the wooden barricades right off the wall. You dump another magazine into it and bounce from window to window, killing the rest of the zombies before they can even enter the bunker. Once the final zombie is dead, you'll hear this sound. It's cathartic, almost relieving for a few seconds. But then that relief is shattered as you hear. There's a second blood streak in the corner now, and taking a look out the window, you see more zombies coming in from the fog. By shooting and killing zombies, or repairing the wooden barricades, you've probably amassed a good bit more points than the measly 500 you started off with. With your pistol empty, you go to buy one of the rifles off the wall, and for a moment, you don't feel as helpless as before. The zombies all die to one headshot, and only a few body shots will put them down. The biggest draw is that not only are these rifles much stronger, but they have much more ammo, and you can buy ammo for your gun at any time by returning to the wall buy. As the next few rounds pass though, you're given a pretty quick and brutal reality check. There are noticeably more zombies than before, and your rifles are taking a handful of headshots to kill. With there being 5 separate barricades to defend, you can't really be everywhere at once. And now that more zombies are showing up, they're beginning to clump up at the barriers and come through in groups. You try to head upstairs, to ascend from darkness, but with the zombies closing in from that side of the bunker, you're pushed into the help room. With the few seconds that you have before the zombies follow you in here, you find this box illuminated with an overhead light. Glowing question marks are engraved into it, and approaching it prompts you to pay 950 points for a random weapon. Without a second thought, you cough up the money. Anything is better than what you have now. The box begins cycling through various different guns, SMGs, shotguns, rifles, LMGs, before finally landing on something. Pretty much anything you can get out of the box will do better damage than the rifles from the previous room. With the downtime between rounds, we can get a better look at this new room we find ourselves in. There's a solid amount of space to work with here, but there's also more barriers for the zombies to enter from. It isn't all bad though, as outside of the random weapon box, there's more wall guns at the far end of the hall. The Thompson is a quick and reliable SMG for a bit more than what it costs to roll the box. Its damage is higher than the rifles, but not by much, making it a really good weapon to farm points with. If you're looking solely for damage and aren't concerned with ammo, then the double-barreled shotgun might be more up your alley. These are both great options compared to the offerings in the last room, but the box is the main attraction here. What other guns can you get out of this thing? As you progress through more rounds and dump all of your earnings into the box, you'll find that a lot of these weapons are pretty hit or miss. Some do amazing damage but are held back by ammo count, while others have good ammo but struggle to do enough damage. Now of course, the holy grail of the random box would be a big, fat, beautiful LMG with a crap load of ammo. If you had that, you'd be set. Whether you eventually get pushed out of the help room by the zombies, or are just curious to explore upstairs, you'll find that not a whole lot of salvation lies above after all. Like the previous rooms, there are even more guns up here. A bar as soon as you come up the stairs, 2 different shotguns, a scoped Kar 98 that strangely does more damage. These are nice and all, but now that you have the box that gives you infinite random weapons downstairs for cheaper, why would you bother with these? We also don't really have a better view of things outside. There's a crashed plane nearby and a few mountains, but nothing that can tell us where we are, or if there's anyone out there who isn't a zombie. Now between the guns and the walls and the plane outside, none of this is the reason why it's so important to go upstairs. This corner right here with the grenade wall by is the one wall that you can safely put your back towards. All the windows in the other room mean nothing, because now every zombie has to funnel through this doorway in a straight line towards you. There is a window to your right, but the bulk of the zombies will always be coming from the center doorway. Now besides the jump in health each round, there's something else you might have noticed by now. Some of the zombies are still shambling towards you, while others are full on sprinting. Your room for error is shrinking fast, and leaving this area mid-round is just asking to get cornered. There's also not really much of a reason to go back downstairs outside of hitting the box at the end of the round. Now eventually, you're going to pull that LMG. Preferably the MG42, and it's everything you'd hoped it would be. High damage with a fast fire rate, fat magazines with a bunch of reserve ammo, and the reload time isn't the worst. But eventually, things begin to become problematic again. The MG does enough damage that the zombies haven't fully power crept it, but that's not it. The issue is that more and more zombies are running every round, and with the time it takes to kill them increasing slightly each time, you may not always be given enough time to reload, putting you in an awkward position where you have to weave between the zombies with your secondary just to get a bit of breathing room. It's clear that eventually this won't be sustainable, and who knows how much longer you can hold out like this. Out of desperation for a miracle, you hit the box one final time, hoping, praying for something that can keep up with the zombies. Huh? The hell is this thing? It died in one hit. Every zombie dies in one hit. That feeling of dread that would come and go every few rounds when your guns would fall off is lifted almost entirely. You feel unstoppable, killing entire hordes of zombies with just a few shots from the ray gun. Everything about this weapon feels almost alien compared to the other guns. It looks and sounds like a toy, but stands head and shoulders above even the MG. With the ray gun in hand, you can survive even longer. You don't even need to switch back to your MG with how fast this thing is mowing down zombies. But then, in the mid-teens, you see it happen again. A few zombies survive a direct impact from the ray gun. Even this miracle from the box, this wonder weapon, isn't immune to power creep. You can blow off the legs of zombies pretty consistently, but your shining beacon of hope is going to dull eventually. Sooner or later, you get pushed out of your camping spot again, and while trying to kite the zombies around, you're backed into a corner. You try to clear a path with the ray gun, just enough space for you to squeeze through the zombies and reload your MG, but that's not what happens. You learn very quickly and abruptly that the very same weapon that made you feel so powerful, that splash damage that you've been abusing to kill hundreds of zombies, can kill you in one shot. As you lay on the floor, the zombie's still running towards you, you hear that demonic laugh again, as the game tells you how many rounds you survived and what your stats are. A slow, unsettling rock song begins playing as your camera flies through the bunker one final time before fading to black. Then you're back, in front of the bars, with just your 1911 in hand. That voice laughs at you again, taunting you. There is no surviving through this night of the living dead. Death isn't an escape. You can only repeat this nightmare and try to get further than you did last time. With the round set back to 1, I think we can put a pin in our little LARP section and speak a bit more generally about the map layout, game flow, all that good stuff. Now, despite Nacht being only 3 rooms, there are a few different ways that you can play it. The strategy everyone and their mother knows is to sit upstairs with an MG and a ray gun and hold your ground, keeping the couch closed so that way zombies have to funnel through the help room. If going downstairs doesn't discourage you though, you could instead stay downstairs, either opening both couches and keeping the help door closed, or only opening the help door and never setting foot upstairs. Regardless, you'll be wanting the flamethrower since it does percentage-based damage and has infinite ammo. Playing Nacht this way is the more modern strategy, and pretty much prevents you from being overrun so long as you're aware of where all the zombies are. Now, when killing the zombies that have made their way into the bunker, sometimes they'll drop these green glowing objects that do a variety of different things. The skull, insta-kill, makes any damage that you do to the zombies lethal regardless of the round. Double points does what it says on the tin. Max ammo fully refills your reserve ammo, and the nuke is a screen clear that kills all zombies that are currently on the map. These power-ups all make the gameplay much more interesting because now there's what I'll call a clutch factor in play. Stay with me on this, but say that your guns aren't doing enough damage anymore and you're getting backed into a corner. You manage to kill a zombie and it drops an insta-kill or a nuke, and now you're put on the spot. Do you risk trying to grab the power-up and die in the process? Or do you stand your ground knowing that you might die anyways since your guns aren't doing enough damage? It's a similar situation with max ammo. You spend your last ray gun shot killing a zombie and it drops the max ammo, but it's not somewhere that you can safely reach. Do you risk trying to get it and either dying in the process or being cornered in your reload animation? Or do you trust that your other gun can clear the way? You do have to be pretty quick when picking up the power-ups since they aren't on the map forever. After about 10 seconds, they'll start to flicker, flickering faster and faster until the power-up disappears entirely. Insta-kill and double points are also on a 30-second timer once you pick them up, so it's usually better to save them for the beginning of the next round should you get one out of the final few zombies. Now, there's something special about World at War's campaign in particular. It has a unique feature where you can play with up to 3 other people in every mission, including Nazi zombies. There's actually quite a few things that change if you join up with a buddy compared to facing this nightmare alone. When playing alone, there can only ever be a maximum of 24 zombies per round. This makes running around downstairs with a flamethrower the dominant strategy, and allows you to reach rounds that you absolutely were never meant to reach. But if you're playing with even just one other person, the number of zombies per round will increase exponentially along with their health. The other major change is that when you get mauled by the zombies, you don't immediately die. Instead, you enter a downed state. If your teammates can revive you within 30 seconds, you're back in the game. But if you fully bleed out, you're stuck as a spectator until either the round advances or everyone dies. When you come back the next round after dying, you'll lose all of your weapons and only have your 1911 again. I think this was the perfect way to go about handling death in a mode like this. You're not gone forever when you die, but there is a pretty hefty punishment for letting your teammates bleed out. It'll become more of an issue later down the line, but with how small Nacht is, and since the mystery box is right there, it's fine. Now, while we've covered Nacht's gameplay flow and what it's like to play it for the first time, I've been pointing out little details about our surroundings, what we can see, those kinds of things. I want to dive a little bit deeper into that before we move on to the criticisms. The atmosphere of Nacht or Untoten, I feel, reflects the atmosphere of World at War as a whole. It's not loud and in your face like future installments. No. It's very subdued and grim. This is a place that we've seen before in the campaign, but the context has been completely changed. What was once just one bunker of many in a Japanese airfield is now a cold, lonely building in the middle of nowhere. Even without the zombies, Nacht is just haunting to be in. There's just enough here with the fog and the lighting to make you feel like you're the only person left alive on the planet, while also having a few hooks like the chalk drawings in the mystery box to get you to start asking questions. Then the game capitalizes on that subtle fear and confusion with the zombies. Think of it like 2 appetizers before the main course arrives, and keeps arriving, forever. It benefits a lot from that less is more idea. The lighting in particular I think does a lot of heavy lifting. Outside of the few white light bulbs that illuminate certain parts of the bunker, pretty much everything else is lit exclusively by moonlight. This paints Nacht in a really cold gradient of blues, dark grays, and black. The only variety in color that you'll find here are the little bits of orange from the flaming debris and the green light beams that the ray gun shoots out. And this is all without even mentioning the zombies themselves. These guys aren't your typical video game zombies like brains or no. These things will hiss, bark, and scream at you. Their skin is a grayish color, which is to be expected since they're dead. Some of them are burnt or charred, some look pissed off, but what really sets them apart is their solid orange eyes. Seeing a horde of beady orange eyes moving towards you in the darker areas of Nacht is just unnerving as all hell, especially with how bad the World at War zombies stick to you. Their animation sets and the way they move in general is super uncanny, especially when they start running. Their walking makes sense. They're working against rigor mortis, so they're slow and shambling. But the fact that these guys can run at you and break through wood and solid concrete just to get to you is horrifying. This all compounds to make Nacht feel almost wrong to stumble across. It's almost like a creepypasta if you think about it. You beat the game only to find a horrifying secret level that feels like it wasn't even intended to be there. I think the cherry on top is the intro cutscene. Nacht would still be pretty unsettling if you were dropped in as soon as the credits were over, but being shown a surprise cutscene of zombies approaching you builds up a lot of tension before you even load into the map. Now, I did mention I'd be covering the lore for all these maps. You hear that? Yeah, that's all the lore of Nacht or Untoten. There is none. All we get is the intro and the visuals I was talking about earlier. You're a nameless marine who survived a plane crash landing in the middle of nowhere. You fight zombies for maybe like a few hours, then just canonically die. That's it. No radios to listen to, no ciphers to crack, nothing. This will probably be the chunkiest segment for more narratively important maps like anything from BO2, 3, or 4, but for now, we'll just put a pin in here too. Now as a little bonus before we get into the issues I have with Nacht, I just wanted to list off a few extra things that didn't really have space in the earlier sections. These are either just one-off little facts or Easter eggs that I know about, so I'll rapid fire through them. Over by the mystery box, there's a radio that you can hit to play music. It'll shuffle through various songs that play in the campaign, but the first song that it plays is a Nacht exclusive. You do need to be pretty close to the radio to actually hear it, but this does a lot of heavy lifting on repeat playthroughs to prevent things from getting stale. The Thompson wall buy says it costs 1500 points, but only charges you 1200 when purchased. Max ammos will not refill your Molotov cocktails. If you pull them from the box, you get 4 per game, and when they're gone, they're gone. In that same vein, you don't get the 400 points for picking up a nuke like you would in any future map. Power-ups in general also work on a cycle. Once you get a certain power-up, you usually can't get another one of that type until you've gotten all 4. Their order is random, but this means you can generally have an idea of what power-up you'll get so long as you pay attention to your cycle. For some reason, the font is completely different between the console and PC versions of World at War. When fixing barricades, you'll still hear the sound of you getting points even after you've reached the threshold where the barrier won't give you money anymore. When messing around with cheats, you can find a few weapons that you can't normally access. Starting with the most tame of the bunch, the Walther P38 is fully functional. It has sound effects, does a lot more damage than the 1911, and it's kinda weird why this is loaded into memory if you can't use it. Immediately getting into the good stuff, did you know there's 3 versions of the 1911 in here? The first one does about the same amount of damage as the Walther, which is to say that it's a tiny bit stronger than the carbine. It has a lot of ammo, and it's pretty nuts seeing the 1911 consistently killing past round 4. Still not really anything competent to carry you into the teens, but it's something. The second 1911 is a standard one. It does the normal amount of damage, so it falls off pretty quick. The third is why this is so interesting. As soon as you pull it out, you'll notice that the animation is a good bit slower, and the running animation looks pretty funky compared to the other versions of the 1911. But okay, outside of the animation changes, what makes this one so different? Did it just fire a goddamn Panzerschreck round? It kinda doesn't do a whole lot of damage though. Yeah, this thing is really bad. The explosions in World at War are goddamn enormous, so you're either gonna concuss yourself or just outright kill yourself the instant that you try to use this at anything closer than medium range. Next up is... oh god, that's just disgusting. Default weapon. Yeah, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and assume that this gun was used for testing. What the devs were testing out with this mangled hand and a cowbell, I have no clue. But there's no model, no sound effects, and you can't reload. Again, super low damage that struggles even in the single digits. but with the added bonus of aiming being made difficult by a lack of sights. Our fourth and final hidden weapon is a pair of zombie hands, appropriately named brains. Whenever you attack with it, you make zombie sounds, and despite it taking up a weapon slot, it only functions when you use your knife. We are 4 for 4 on terrible cheat guns, but I have a little theory about these. I have a hunch that the AI for the zombies is probably just a heavily stripped down AI for the bonsai soldiers, so maybe the zombies are just holding the brains weapon by default. I've mentioned it before, but Nacht is almost fully reused from the campaign. You can find the bunker in the mission Hard Landing, and it's reused again for the multiplayer map Airfield. As someone who's only ever known this bunker as the Nacht bunker, it's super jarring to stumble across it if you aren't expecting it. It feels wrong just being able to wander in and out of the bunker without any threat from the zombies. Building on that a little bit, Nacht isn't the only campaign mission where you can get the ray gun. If you load into the mission Little Resistance, and jump in these 3 puddles from right to left, 4 statues will rise up out of the ground, each with a ray gun in its mouth that you can pick up and use. It doesn't seem to be as good as it is in zombies though. It'll still one-shot if you can land your shots, but because the enemy soldiers are a lot faster and more slippery than the zombies, and don't just path directly towards you all the time, it feels a little bit jank to use. Final little thing, and again it's about the campaign, but even things like the round music is taken from the campaign. The round change is a small snippet of a track used in the mission Heart of the Reich, and the round start is the very beginning of the mission Eviction. Here's a side-by-side on both so that you can hear it for yourself. Now I know it's taboo to criticize Nacht since it was the very first zombies map and there's nothing to build off of, but the one issue that I have is probably the most damning. There is nothing to really do here. This isn't Origins where you're doing things for like 10 different quests and have no downtime. This isn't Transit where you're constantly visiting various different points of interest in one game. There is no grander objective to achieve or new cool thing to unlock. Once you strip away the atmosphere and the unsettling feeling that the map has, you'll see all that Nacht has to offer in maybe 2 to 3 games max. Every gun, every strategy, every little secret. Even compared to the rest of the world at war maps, there is not a whole lot going on here. Verrückt has the power and the perks, Shinonuma has a dedicated boss round, and Doris has the pack-a-punch. But on Nacht, all you can do is try to survive as long as you can. You can maybe stretch the fun out a bit more with some buddies, but eventually Nacht will just run its course. It's also a really weird case where you're shoehorned into a certain strategy depending on your skill level. If you're the average Joe Schmo who plays zombies maybe once in a blue moon, you pretty much have to camp upstairs or else you won't even see double digits. But if you're someone who's been grinding the map out for months, maybe years, you succumb to dominant strategy and use the flamethrower downstairs. Now all of this isn't to say that Nacht is some horrendous, unplayable garbage map. No. Call of Duty would just be another generic war sim without it and what it did for the zombies mode. It's just basic. Bare bones, if you will. Whenever I get the urge to sit down and play some zombies, Nacht is never my first choice. I tend to gravitate towards maps with some more meat on their bones. You know, for a first attempt at an endless survival mode like this, Nacht does a good enough job being a simple, fun little Easter egg for players who finish the campaign. It fully succeeds at making you feel completely helpless, more so I'd say than any future map. It constantly gives you increases to your power and confidence, only to strip them away from you just as quickly. While every future map has so much more going for them in terms of story, gameplay, and horror, there would be no Mob of the Dead, no Origins, Shadows of Evil, or Horizon Track without this humble little 3-room bunker in the middle of nowhere. It's just unfortunate that it's pretty much impossible to discover zombies blind now. The game mode is so synonymous with Call of Duty that everyone and their mother knows about the mode, so we can only remember and simulate what it was like rather than genuinely experiencing it all over again. Even in this retrospective, all of my thoughts are polluted by the fact that I know what comes next, and it's why I can't help but be a bit harsh to Nacht. Also, unscripted here, but by the way, if you reach round 100, there's a secret zombie Hitler boss fight. I'd show it to you, but you just gotta go discover it yourself. But now that every COD player in 2008 knows about this hidden little mode, what's next for zombies?
Hit it! Freaking zombies. It's over. No, it ain't over. This is just the beginning.